When Kazim Rashad signed up to run for the 28th District of the State Senate in Virginia, he knew that he signed up for long bus trips deep into the night. He knew that he signed up for interminably long and boring fundraising dinners where he ate rubber chicken. He knew that he signed up for heated debates. He also knew that he signed up for unsalutary things written about him in the newspapers and also on social media. He did not sign up, Rashid did not sign up for what he received from Oscar Dillon. Because on one day, Oscar Dillon signed into his Twitter account and he wrote this simple statement: Rashid does not belong here. He needs to go home. Well, Qasim Rashid was home. He came to the United States when he was 13 years old. He had matriculated in the Chicago City Schools. He went on to earn his bachelor degree at the University of Illinois in Urbana, and went on from there to get his law degree from the University of Richmond. And he liked Virginia so much he decided to settle there. But the tweet that Oscar Dillon sent out was forwarded several million times. And before long, the assault was on. And Rashid ultimately was threatened with a public lynching in the streets of Virginia. Wasn't just Rashid that was in danger, it was his wife and his 3 children. He searched with what should he do? What should be his response? He thought retaliation. Then he said, no. I mean, he had written 3 books, published 3 books by then on making peace. His brother was a celebrated, highly decorated Marine who had written a book, The Marine Muslim. And yet, there he was. So you know what he decided to do? He decided to research Oscar Dillon just to figure out what type of man he was dealing with. And he discovered that Oscar Dillon's wife had suffered a pulmonary embolism from which she had never really recovered fully. And they were being crushed by a mountain of medical debt. So what did Rashid do? Well, he decided to contribute to the Dillon's GoFundMe account. And then Rashid asked all of his followers on Facebook and on Twitter to do the same. 250,000 people. Before long, the Dillons were covered up with thousands of dollars and could retire their debt. When Oscar Dillon was interviewed by a newspaper when this was found out, he said, you know, I despised Rashid. I poked fun of him. I wanted to humiliate him. And I was the one who was humbled. And because of what he did, I had to take a long, hard look at myself. And I knew I had to change. That was not what Rashid signed on for when he accessed his Twitter account on that day. And neither did Simon Peter sign up to be the charter captain on Jesus' fishing boat. You know, if you look at the scene, here's Pete and his two business partners, James and John. They are busily trying to get their nets cleaned from all the silt and all the stuff you pick up on the bottom of the lake, and trying to get their tackle cleaned up and stored away in the boat so they can start again the next day. They had fished all night. They had caught nothing. They were frustrated. They were tired. And yet here comes Jesus down the coast, followed by Lord knows how many people. He doesn't even ask. He steps into Simon Peter's boat and says, do you think you could push off just a little way from the shore so I can preach to all these people? And I can just see Pete going, okay. So he takes Jesus out just a little ways, and of course Jesus preaches to the multitude. And when he has said all he wants to say, then Jesus says, hey, let's go on out into the deeper water. Let's go out into the blue water. And so either, Pete put up the sail or he grabbed the oars. They went out to the deeper blue water. And when they get out there, Jesus goes, let's put out the nets. And Pete at this says, now, Master, we fished all night, didn't catch a deadgum thing. He says, but if you just say the word, that's the Greek here, if you just say the word, I will do as you say. Jesus must have nodded, so he put out the nets, the clean nets, the nets ready for the next day. He put out the nets, and of course, they got into a shoal of fish, and they had so many fish that the nets start breaking and the boat starts sinking. So they get James and John to pull up alongside of them. They start catching more fish, and both boats are in danger of going down to Davy Jones's locker. And when they finally stabilize the situation, Pete hits his knees in the middle of that boat, and he looks at Jesus. He said, Master, you need to depart from me, because I am a sinful man. And when they get into the shore and they dump all that fish out on the shore, Jesus says to Pete, do not be afraid. Jesus' favorite line, do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people. And the three of them leave their bonanza of fish and they follow Jesus. And then they're really into something they didn't sign up for. This is an immensely personal story. Do you know that? It's a personal story. I know we like the panoramic vision of it, of Jesus preaching to the multitude, of Jesus bringing in all that fish, but it's not about those things. It's about Pete. Most stories in the Bible are like that. They center down on the individual. That's the reason why it makes us so uncomfortable. Martin Luther was right those many years ago in the 16th century. He says, the reason we don't like the Bible is because it's about us. We don't like it because it's about us. And so it centers down on Peter. What Jesus wants to do is get his attention. It's very much like the 16th chapter of Acts, when you read about Paul and Silas being thrown in that Roman prison in Philippi. And they get in there, they're chained to the wall, they're behind bars, and what do the two do? They sing through the night and they pray through the night. And all the other inmates are going, whoa, this is not so bad. Then an earthquake occurs, the chains come off of Paul and Silas, and the doors open to the prison, and you think, yes, the story is about God intervening and freeing Paul and Silas. It's not about that. It's about the jailer, because he comes in, he hits his knees, and he says, how can I be saved? How can I have what you have? That's what the story's about. And this story is about Pete. And he falls down at Jesus' feet when he sees all this, and he says, depart from me, I am a sinful man. Depart from me, I'm a sinful man. Now, as I've said to you until you're tired of hearing it, but you got to hear it again, Pete is not sitting there cataloging the fact that he raised his voice at his kids, and he had some prurient thoughts about this. That's not what's going on here. The Greek word, the predominant Greek word for sin in the New Testament is hamartia. It means you fail because you've missed the mark. And the main aspect of our sin, and listen to me carefully, is that we are not living in accord with God's will. We've missed the mark. God has a plan for you and me. Where we sin is when we go off on our own and say, "Ooh, I think I like this fruit. I think I'll take it myself. I'll take things into my own hands." That's the core of sin. The Lord has made us so that we can be priests of His kingdom and do what He has us planned to do. But most of us like to play in the shallow end, don't we? We're in the baby pool. And so in this story, Jesus says to Pete, push on out into the deeper water. It's time to get out of the baby pool. It's time to go deeper. You know, so many people that object to the Christian life say to me, "Oh, it's going to constrict my life. It's going to shrink me down." But I'm telling you, to live in Christ is to have a wide open life. It's to go out into the deep water, to cast our nets. You know, I'm so grateful for the leadership of this parish. Every year in February, our senior wardens, in which we've had a procession of great senior wardens, they insist the 1st of February we set our goals. And they're very clear, the status quo is not enough for God. The status quo is not enough for God. He is calling us into the deep water to experience who knows what. Who knows what? Get out of the shallow end. Get out of the shallow end. And in case you are intimidated by this, the results aren't up to us. We're just supposed to paddle. Our job is to paddle, not the results. You're a great group of people. I know most all of you. And I love all of you. But there's not a single person in this room who can heal anybody. There's not a single person in this room who can save anybody. There's not a single person in this room who can really bless anybody. God does the blessing. We do the rowing. We do the rowing. We're the paddlers. We go where He wills. And I don't care if you're the Archbishop of Canterbury or if you're a brand new acolyte. Makes no difference. You know, over the last 2 days, I've had the opportunity to visit. Let's see, I've made home visits on an 89-year-older, a 91-year-older, a 96-year-older, a 100.5-year-older, and I had lunch yesterday in the memory care unit. And then I went on to see an 86-year-older, I guess. And that's an honor that Christians have. It's an honor. But I could not bless a single person I went to go visit. I was just paddling so that God could work through me the same way He works through you. Our job is not the results. We're putting up the sails and paddling. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And finally, Peter was asked to go from good to great. I know I sound like a business shaman all of a sudden. It's actually the title of a business book, Good to Great. But think about it. I love this scene. Now think about this. Not only do Peter and James and John leave their boats, their livelihood, their occupations, their home, their family, but they're leaving 2 gigantic mounds of fish on the shore. The fish that probably would make it for the year for them. They're going to leave it there, and people are either going to come and scarf it up and make money off of it, or just cook it up, or it's going to sit there and rot. But they leave it all. They leave it all to follow Jesus Christ into the great unknown. They left what was good to go to great. Now, I'm telling you right now, there's not a single one of us that was meant to sit on idle on the side of the road. We are meant to do great things in our own realm. I don't know what it is for you, but I know it's great. We are not to settle. You know, I love the scene. You know, James and John, they have as many problems as Peter. They must have had some kind of childhood, the three of them, I'm telling you. But anyway, at one point, James and John, after Jesus says, I'm going to be crucified, they're going to torture me, James and John said, yeah, that's fine. They said, yeah, but, you know, do you mind if we can sit on the right and left when you come into your kingdom? And Jesus says, can you drink the cup I drink? And the two of them, unknowing, said, well, sure, boss, we can drink it. And they will. And it sounds like it's dire, but it's not. What Christ is saying to James and John is, it's been good being with you, but your life's about to be great. You and I have signed up for the greatest adventure the world has to offer. I don't know what's around the next bend, but I know it's not just good.